or the Sharia compliant bond matures on the 5th of December and Pakistan is in all likelihood going to default on that payment. $7.93 billion is the reserve in the State Bank of Pakistan, but it does not belong to Pakistan. 2.3 billion out of that 7.93 billion have been credited by China. 3 billion deposited by Saudi. $1.2 billion loan from the IMF. Not a single money in that reserve belongs to Pakistan. $1 currently stands at 224 Pak rupees, down 1% in the last 7 trading sessions. Our investigations editor Manoj Gupta getting us these details as we take a look at what is happening with the Pakistan economy. Why is the world worried? One, there could be nuclear weapon misuse threat which looms large in a nation that is in disarray. Political instability, fight within the military establishment, and of course the economic pressures. There's vicious religious extremism which is exploding on ground and which is clearly sidelining the moderates, the intelligentsia, and it's the fundamentalists who are taking over the streets for one reason or the other. Democracy weakening, and of course the establishment, control and sway of the establishment only will increase. Massive refugee crisis that lurks for the neighborhood if this happens. Clearly there are concerns being raised in Pakistan of the population explosion also. But amidst this threat war, there is also China's area of entrenchment that then expands, because China is the one which is perhaps currently the biggest lender for the Pakistanis, and the trade-off is only going to compromise the sovereignty of Pakistan but increase the Chinese toehold or foothold in Pakistan, on Pakistani soil. So what does it mean, and should there be alarm bells going in the region even as Pakistan stares as this critical situation, massive economic crisis that looms large amidst all the other reasons of political instability and unrest? Let's dive into the entire conversation straight up. Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow of the ORF with us. We also have Dr. Tara Karta, former Director of the National Security Council Secretariat. But we'll first start with Senior Pak journalist Hamid Khan joining us via Skype from London. Namaste to everybody. Thank you very much for making the time. Hamidji, I'm going to ask you, are you also concerned as a citizen, as a Pakistani, the economic crisis? Because this does augur well.
Thank you. Doubt about it that I am very much concerned with the economical situation in Pakistan, especially what indicators are saying. It is very dangerous. And to be honest, all to the turmoil for the 7-8 months in Pakistan, I believe that it is the time of to show some responsibility and from our political leaders, from political from bureaucracy. The matter is, very serious. It is a grave concern that, all the indicators are saying that Pakistan at the verge of default. But on the other hand, Anand, I have to be optimistic as well that Pakistan have faced many challenges like that in past as well. I would like to remind you at the time when Pakistan did first their nuclear test in 1998 on 28th of May. And at that time, it was asserted in so many newspapers of the world that Pakistan is going to be default definitely within 3 days or 2 days, and extended. So I believe that resilience of the nation and the resilience of the Pakistani public, I think we will come out of it, but we need to take action as soon as possible. It has to now rather than too late. But there is no doubt that there is a very much stress going on in terms of economical pressure. But on the other hand, Anand, Pakistan have seen multiple turmoil such as this one, and prior to that at the earthquake time, and then the nuclear explosion time. So Pakistan.
But Hamidji, see, one of the aspects is we can have political turmoils, we may have natural calamity, we may also be in a state of war with another nation. So I'm not even getting into the India-Pakistan hostilities, but one aspect is that nations need to know how to manage their finances. You are, see, as a country right now, Pakistan has a $62 trillion debt and a 92% risk of credit default. That means there is absolute financial mismanagement which has happened not in the last 7-8 months. It has happened over the last many years. I'm just going to extend this and I'll come back to you, sir. I'll bring in Dr. Tara Karta and Sushant Sareen. Dr. Tara Karta, has Pakistan already over-leveraged its geostrategic advantage? Because in the past, the nation benefited from its geostrategic position and it had American dollars to bail itself out. Now the Chinese are saying we are not giving you any more money. The Saudis are saying we've parked the money but you can't touch it. Have they over-leveraged their geostrategic advantage and are they now slaves to their own financial mismanagement?
I think you put that well. Yeah, it is over leveraged in terms of what, I mean, do you remember General Bajwa was talking about how to make Pakistan economic corridor, the strategic, the shift which Pakistan was going to undergo. We didn't see any of that happening, right? I mean, a little bit, yes, because they allowed our consignments to go to Afghanistan, the wheat consignments which were meant for aid. So I think the army in particular has realized quite clearly that there is a crisis, and why they've realized it is because it will affect their defense expenditure. I mean, the International Monetary Fund is certainly not going to allow a rise in defense expenditure as was planned in the last budget. They're not going to allow that. So they're looking at other ways of getting, and actually Pakistan can become an economic corridor for this area if it plays its cards right. But as the gentleman from Pakistan said, it is still a large country, right? It is not so easily, pushed down the drain because it has immense amount of land. It has an immense amount of resources. The question is exactly what you said, is complete mismanagement. And in this, if you look at the new reports which have come about the assets which the Pakistan Army chief has accumulated, including his wife has got some $500,000 in US banks. She's got 4 plots in the DHA exclusive, in areas. That is mismanagement. I mean, why do they always, I can't honestly say, maybe he's got family wealth. Maybe it's all part of his own, but this elite which governs Pakistan, I'm not saying Bajwa's corrupt, I'm saying this is the elite with immense amount of money who cannot bring themselves to understand what the common man is dealing with, which means you don't make the right policies. They're all the same.
Or does it not matter at all, Dr. Tara Karta, because you don't inherit chains of pizza delivery stores, you don't inherit chains of other food outlets and other franchises, and that too on American soil. You don't own all of that. You don't inherit all of that. It has come from somewhere, and there are a lot of Faujis or ex-Pak military who have made lots of money and then they have decamped from the country quietly and set up their own shops all over, and they are living off the wealth that actually belong to the nation that is Pakistan or the people of Pakistan. I'm setting the animosity aside tonight and focusing on a real issue, because this is a huge civilian crisis that will also trigger not just civil war but a massive refugee crisis if this unfolds the way it is building up. Sushant Sareen.
Yeah, Anand, just a point of correction. Their total debt is not $62 trillion, it's 62 trillion rupees.
62 trillion rupees, okay. Beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Correct.
The problem, however, is while that quantum is quite huge, it's I think over 100% of their GDP, that's not the real problem. The problem is in the serviceability of this debt. And that is where they are going bankrupt, right? There are other countries which have much bigger debts, but they don't have a problem in servicing it. Japan, China, the US, many other countries. The bigger problem in Pakistan is, and I can't understand why Dr. Tara Karta is, saying that she's not saying Bajwa is corrupt. The latest revelations actually make no bones about it that he's horribly corrupt. He's as corrupt as any of his predecessors and probably as corrupt as any of his successors. Now, the rapacity of the Pakistan army is unparalleled in Pakistan. right? It's very often said that it's an army with a state, and they have the kind of rapaciousness they have shown in looting the country is second to none. But the bigger problem is that, when the gentleman from London talks about, we have gone through this in the past, it was never as bad as this. It was never as bad as this, either in terms of their international relations, either in terms of the kind of indebtedness which they had. It wasn't as bad as this in terms of their energy economics. The whole damn thing has gone to seed, right? And the problem is that there is no easy fix to this. There is no easy fix, because what Pakistan needs is very deep structural reforms. And very deep structural reforms inflict a hell of a lot of pain. Now, it's very, glib for people to talk about, oh, our people are very resilient. What choice do the people have? Who's taking the people? Where do they go if they don't stay out there and suffer the consequences of their choices? So to talk about resilience, I think it's the most, heartless thing to say about any people. It was like, what people used to say about Bombay, that, oh, bomb blast, but Bombay bounces back. What choice do people have, right? And this is abdication of responsibility, using the word resilience for a people. But the problem is now, going forward, that the army has created a system that until and unless the army completely backs off and allows the civilians to take over completely, because look, the army has no idea about economics, none whatsoever. If you just hear their generals and their other army officers talk on economics on public television, you hold your head in despair that, are these the guys who are running this country? And then is it any surprise that this country has gone to the dogs? So frankly, I am all for the army to continue doing what it's doing, because it's great to see an enemy go down through its own devices. But yes, I think the larger point you raise is that as a responsible country in the region, when you have a country of 240 million people go down the tube, there are going to be serious repercussions for us as well. There could be a refugee crisis, there could be a massive insecurity coming into India. All sorts of horrific scenarios can be imagined. So yes, it is a matter of concern for us, but the problem is we can't save Pakistan from itself.
No, but Pakistanis can, and if they really want to...
no, I don't think I think the Pakistanis have also crossed that point where they can save it. Look, allow me half a minute.
Ji.
Okay, here is the problem. This year they need about $40 billion. Okay, 34 if you don't take the extra buffer which they need. Okay, this year they will manage by going to the Saudis, by going to the Chinese, by going to everybody else, asking them to roll over their debt, asking them to give some more money. Okay, fine. So till June 2023, you have managed to, meet your obligations. Next year, they owe another 40 billion. Are you going to do the same thing over and over again? And please remember that even as they are doing this, their loan portfolios are going up. Their currency is becoming weaker. Their economy is totally in a meltdown stage. Their exports are uncompetitive. Their industry is uncompetitive. Their energy prices have gone through the roof. They can't afford it anymore. People who are consuming just 300 units get bills of 20 to 24,000 bucks, which is almost 80% of their salary. Are they going to eat, or are they going to pay for electricity? Are they going to feed their children? Are they going to educate their children? Or are they going to pay the electricity?
Ji, one second,
Are they going to wear clothes, or are they going to go naked simply because they need electricity in their house? That is the kind of economic distress levels that they are facing. There are no easy solutions. I don't even see any solutions.
No, and point is that there is no leadership or a thought process or a direction towards working out a solution which somewhere in the next 4 or 5 years could elevate Pakistan out of this. That's one. The other point is this entire power aspect is a vice-like trap that the Pakistanis have gotten sucked into with the Daimler Barsha and some of the other projects which they have given to the Chinese. Now that's coming back to bite them in terms of the costs. Yes, Hamid ji, boliye, please.
Thank you very much, Anand. First of all, I would like to respond Sishant Saab's remarks that, to be honest, I am very sad that an enemy like you is very happy that if Pakistan goes default. But I would like to reassure you that you and anybody who thinks like you will be again disappointed that Pakistan will come out of it. It could be your desire, it could be your wishful thinking, but I believe and I have faith in God that we will come out of it, first of all. Secondly, whatever situation is, there is two facts are there. One, Pakistan's projects with China and Pakistan's future projects with other countries, they have a lot of potential. If Pakistan can survive or will go through, as Shishant have admitted, that Pakistan will go through June or end of this year, then let me tell you, Pakistan will be surviving again, and it will be very heartbroken for an enemy like you who wants to be happy that if Pakistan default, they will be celebrating. I mean, I believe that it is a very, very, very minute percentage of Indians who will be happy at Pakistan's default. I know the people of India, they don't
हमें जी देखिए emotion is a very convenient tool to try and deflect. But see, I know you deserve the right to rebut Sushant Sareen. But what Sushant Sareen said is that as an Indian citizen, as an Indian who's borne the brunt of Pakistan's animosity towards India, this is what he harbors. But he also understands that this is a nation of 240 million. And humanitarian crisis is something where all of us are staring at. But the larger question, Amit ji, is, see, you may push till June 2023. Let's come back to it. What he said is, you have to service 40 billion this year and you got to service another 40 billion next year. So that balloons up to 80 billion, plus your loan is only going up. Your overdraft is only going up. So how are you going to emerge out of it? Who's got a plan for this?
Once our CPEC is completed, once our Uber is open, we are looking to recover over $60 billion a year in terms of revenue of transit, and that will resolve our problem. I think that is the thing which is disturbing.
But no, it's not. Nobody is getting disturbed. But you know the reality that on ground, your CPEC has not moved, sir. CPEC has not moved anywhere in the last 3.5 years. Obor is still another 5-6 years far from reality. Till then, by then, you know, in reality, sir, I'm not. If CPEC may have its own challenges, you're right to have hope. But CPEC cannot be your plan because that's not your plan. CPEC is China's plan. It's not your plan. It's using territory that India claims sovereignty on, territory that is currently occupied by Pakistan, which now is currently being used by China in a fight between two nations over territory. It's a third nation that's cashing in. It's sitting on that, and it is going to now say that I want boots on ground because you cannot run it. That's what's happening. The Chinese presence in those areas is far greater than what the Pakistani influence is. So CPEC cannot be your answer, sir.
It is a mutual beneficial project between Pakistan and China. India has nothing to do with it because Kashmir is integral part of Pakistan. There is no doubt about it, and UN resolutions are very open about it.
See again. Once let's talk fact and let's talk about fact and not fiction. I'm just very going to humbly say that let's talk about fact and not fiction.
Yeah,
right now, the fact is that you don't have any solution to service an $80 billion commitment that you have to have by December 2023. Tara Kartaji, I have limited time. Let Tara Kartaji also speak. Yeah, Taraji.
I just want to tell the gentleman from Pakistan, you had a Chinese professor come to Pakistan and tell you that CPEC is not charity. You know, so it is not something which is being gifted to you. It is something which they expect that it will take some money for them, and that's not happening, as Anand said. Second thing you're going to have a problem is there is very strong donor fatigue. The whole world economy is in grief, so no one is going to give you the kind of money that you once thought you had a right to. And the third factor, the fact of the matter is that you will have, and so does India to a large extent, have a severe climate change crisis. Yeah. Now, all of this has come together, and as he says, what's your plan B? Each time we've talked to the Pakistanis, we've said, look, open up on trade. You think you're doing us a favor. You're not. You're doing yourself a favor. But the thing is, again, that I come back to the fact that the people who come to these, this kind of talks is the elite who have no idea of what Pakistan is actually going through. That is terrible. And that elite includes, as we said, I didn't want to say Bajwa is corrupt because that's for the Pakistanis to decide. But if this is what the elite is, what kind of policy can you expect? And with the best intentions in the world, I would wish that you could come out of this, but honestly, I don't see how.
A 62.46 billion rupee debt and a credit default risk of 92.5% plus is a serious concern. I have to move on. I thank all our guests because we just got news coming through from Pakistan itself. There is one more threat to life or a threat to life alert on Imran Khan. And this has now come from the CTD in Punjab, that's a Pak province of Punjab. Pakistan's Interior Ministry has issued a threat alert in lieu of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf's Hakiki Azadi March. The alert says that Imran Khan, who's all set to rejoin that march, could come under attack from one of the multiple religious extremist factions. It could be Tehreek-e-Labbaik or some of the splinter groups or outfits of the Al-Qaeda. It also says he could be attacked by Islamic State Khorasan for supporting the Majlis Wahdatul Muslimin. Further alerts say a dormant Al-Qaeda could attack him as it has a penchant for conducting attacks with strategic implications. So Al-Qaeda, Tehreek-e-Labbaik and also the ISIS Khorasan, all three of them have been named in this alert by the Interior Ministry in Pakistan. This type of alert was issued earlier also and he was attacked. Now Imran is starting his march, and just before that, this alert has now come in, ladies. And so once again, as Imran goes to rejoin the march, there could be another attack. And these are fundamentalist groups whom Imran has given an open run, a free run on Pakistani soil, who may just come back to perhaps attack him for their own various reasons. On that note, we're going to take a very short break. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, it's a special effort here on The Right Stand to get you the perspective of various minds, legal, intelligentsia, journalists, over the course of the next 3 days as we build up to Constitution Day on the 26th of November. We will try and analyze and ask people, Bharatiya, how Indian do they think is our Samvidhan? Jai Sai Deepak and Vishnu Shankar Jain on the other side. Stay with us.
There are claims that on one hand, Aam Aadmi Party maintains that they are a party of Aam Aadmi and they don't have to do anything with the alleged corruption and also the money laundering. On the other hand, you're not getting bail from last 5 months, and then there comes a video where first you're getting these VVIP services including massage, Bisleri water, AC and all other things. And now this video where there are claims that he's enjoying the special food from 5-star hotel, and not only just food but also getting fruits and dry fruits and all other things.
Pallavi, I want to understand from you. We saw the Aam Aadmi sort of address these claims yesterday. Gopal Rai came out and said that the BJP is just trying to create drama, but we've not seen them specifically reply to the claims in yesterday's video. Why are they, just a few days before the MCD elections, adopting this approach?
Well, I think the Aam Aadmi Party's strategy over here is very clear, that they want to brazen it out. They're calling it a clear case of political witch hunt, selective leaks from the BJP, and also the misuse of the institutions. Now, if you remember the arguments which were given by the counsel of Satyendra Jain in court yesterday, he asked this question: why should the ED not be served a notice, which they were, about why they are leaking this video from inside the jail, and only reason is that BJP wants to use it to make a political point against the Aam Aadmi Party. Now, on record, both Mr. Manish Sisodia, most of the AAP leaders, and certainly the lead taken by the Delhi Chief Minister, Mr. Kejriwal, has been that the BJP is unnerved both in Gujarat as well as during the MCD elections, and that's the reason why they're selectively leaking out this footage, because they want to score a point against them. Of course, no answer comes in from them on the demand that shouldn't Satyendra Jain's resignation now be demanded for as a minister. How can he continue to enjoy a VVIP treatment? A series of video images coming out, for example, getting that massage, very clearly experts saying that it was not a physiotherapy session, it was also a massage given by a rape accused, And also now the latest video which we have been seeing being put out by the BJP since early this morning, where they show him, contrary to claims by Satyendra Jain's counsel that he was not being served nutritious food. It becomes important also, Toya, because one of the main grounds on which bail is being sought for Mr. Jain is on health grounds. And because of those health conditions, he should be given bail because he's not getting good food inside the jail and has been consistently losing weight. All those holes are being pricked by the BJP via the video which they have put out since morning.
Charu Pragya, thank you so much for joining us here on the show. Over the last few hours, we've heard from multiple BJP people, all of whom have said that the videos that we can see are proof that Satyendra did receive special treatment. Now, the other thing here is that we have from the Aam Aadmi Party addressing this video, all the videos that came forward yesterday. But the one question that is being raised is why the using videos we don't even know the source. We don't know who's put these videos out into the public domain in the first place. What does the BJP have to say?
See, the fact of the matter is, whatever the source is, and I'm sure you'll get to that, whatever the source is, what these videos are showing us is critical. They are showing us a corrupt minister of Aam Aadmi Party who is behind bars since 5 months, who is not getting paid, who is enjoying every power, whether it is food, whether it is a massage, whether, he's able to do his and deeds from behind bars. Now, these are the things that we need to pay attention to power India against corruption. Here is a political party which calls itself Qatar Andar. And how do they show this? They are not walking the talk. They have proved themselves to be not just corrupt, but horrible liars. Because I can't forget that video footage of CM Kejriwal talking about Mr. Jain needing a physiotherapist. Who are you trying to fool? Not that I believed it then, but then there were clarifications out that is Rinku the prisoner, who's actually a rapist, not a physiotherapist. He's putting on weight in jail, 8 kilos in jail. How is that possible if you're not being pampered day and night? See, this is not what we want for our country. This is not what politics is supposed to be.
Okay.
And I've been saying this from the very beginning. He needs to begin by either offering a resignation and then we talk more about him, because it's terrible.
Delhi, remember, is set to see the MCD elections in just a few days from now. The BJP is facing off the Aam Aadmi Party. In the context of that, the volley of words between two parties has only increased. This is after a video of the jailed Delhi minister Satyendra Jain has emerged again today. Yesterday, remember, there was controversy over a different such video and the purported special treatment the BJP is claiming while that having food that come from outside. I want to bring a little bit of here. Satyendra filed with the court, not be mixed dry fruits that he required fit to his diet. Now the BJP, it seems, is using the video that's just come out to show that he is receiving plenty of food. They're furthering the allegation and saying that he's possibly receiving food from outside the jail. We don't obviously have evidence of this. Now, I do want to bring context on the entire story. The over here, law.
Namaste. Ladies and gentlemen, we are endeavoring to do a constitution and try and get you the right perspective. Our Vidhan. How Indian is it? Nearly 7 decades that it's come to force. Are the laws archaic? Is the way it's structured, the amendments, the entire ethos of it? How Bharatiya is it? And has it been able to? Does our Samvidhan still carry the remnants of coloniality? Or is it truly Indian? And joining us on this are people who are not only studying this, who are practicing this, who are supposed to know this in and out, but they are also doing a deep dive to understand where the origins of our constitution is. So, author, lawyer, and someone who claims India, that is Bharat. Desai Deepak is with us, and also with us, joining us. He should have been with us in studio, but he had an urgent hearing, and that's a case that he's been fighting with, along with his senior, his father, Harishankar Jain ji. So Vishnu Jain, namaste. Thank you very, very much. Let me ask you. So I know that you are fighting a fight which you very thoroughly, strongly believe in, and you want to fight a legal battle. But we will focus on the Samvidhan today. Ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, this is something which is a very special gift to me, and I thought I should show it to you. This is the original Samvidhan. It's a reprint of the original Constitution of India, where we had Mr. Raza, the calligrapher, who has written, painted the entire Samvidhan. It was called India in sovereign democratic republic. Often used word is absent. Sovereign democratic republic. That's what they said. That's what they dreamed of our country as. And there's something special. Sai Deepak, there is also Ram, Lakshman and Sita right at the top of fundamental rights. So the Samvidhan has Ram, Lakshman and Sita. It has Buddha. It has the symbol of the Indus civilization. As it says, India, that is Bharat. It's there on the first or the second page, and I'll try and show that also. It has all the signs. And look how beautifully civilization, remnants of are. And Article 1, this is the title of Book 2, The Union and its Territory, Part 1. Article 1, first line, it says, India, that is Bharat. But let's ask Desai Deepak and Vishnu Shankar Jain as we take this forward, how Bharatiya is our constitution?
So based on my limited reading so far, I am of the view that the constitution happens to be perhaps the product of dual consciousness. Not only would I use the naming of the country under Article 1 as a reference point, but the debate around particular naming, the fact that the overall framework that seems to have been adopted is, let's say, it is significantly inspired by provisions of the Irish Constitution. The 15th Amendment of the United States Constitution effectively finds repetition as Article 14 here. You have several aspects of Anglo-Saxon principles which are applied here. Then the French principles of liberty, equality and fraternity which are captured as part of the preamble. So this is significantly entrenched in the Western framework. But this is also one of those constitutions where there is a provision that specifically speaks of ban on cow slaughter and cow protection. It speaks of cow protection. Then there is, of course, Article 295A. Most people know of Section 295A from the IPC, but they don't know of Article 295A, where the Indian state has taken the responsibility from the former Maharaja of Travancore, the obligation of paying rents to the Padmaswami temple in return from the temple. So, continuing obligation. These are obligations inherited from rulers. So, the backdrop of the politico-legal infrastructure that we have inherited from the Anglo-Saxon model, coupled with our own historical and realities, and it certainly reflects a certain dual consciousness. Whether it suffers from dual consciousness and whether the balance tilts in favor of colonial consciousness, I am yet to answer that particular question. But at the very least, there is an Indian component and there is a Bharatiya component, both of them being different from each other.
Both of them being different, but it's no. It's supposed to be India, that is Bharat. You would have wanted our founding fathers to learn from other democracies, other constitutions, and perhaps bring in what is good. But there have been complaints, Vishnu Shankar Jain, that the laws are archaic. They are more than 2 centuries old. Over the last 7 decades, the Constitution has gone through several amendments. But have these amendments made it more Bharatiya in nature, or has it made it more Western in nature?
See, Anand, very good evening to all of you and a very good evening to Sai Deepak. And I must say that the constitution after amendment has added more insult to injury rather than fulfilling the dreams which our founding fathers had. Kindly analyze the dichotomy in our Indian constitution. When the word secular was debated in the Constitution Assembly, 3 times that word was taken down, and by way of 42nd Amendment in 1976, this word was added, and the specific plea was, and the debate was in the Constitution Assembly, that the words secular and minority cannot stay together. I must quote here, and I am bound to quote here, the discussion which Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel had while inserting minority rights, and this is what he said at page 351, volume 8 of the Constitution Assembly debates. This debate is available. He said, I remember, and I'm quoting, I remember that the gentleman who moved the motion here last time in August 1947 when asking for separate electorates, I believe said that Muslims today were very strong, well-lit and well-recognized minority. Very good. A minority that could force the partition of the country is not a minority at all. Why do you think that you are minority? If you are so strong, well-lit and well-organized minority, why do you want to claim safeguards? Why do you want to claim privileges? It was all right when there was a third party, but that's all over. So my point is unquote. So my point is that kindly see the founding fathers had an intention that there should be no minority rights in our constitution, and article 299 which was under the draft constitution was struck down. But despite the said fact, we have article 30 subclause 1 our Indian 30 subclause 1 in our Indian constitution, where we give specific minority rights and minority educational institutions are set up, and there are discriminations and dichotomy from that very beginning in the Indian constitution, and the amendment to the Indian constitution by adding the word secular and socialist have added more insult to injury. I have challenged the word secular and socialist which have been brought by amendment, because kindly see, Anand, if someone will read the preamble, it's an oath which was taken on 26 November 1949. It says at the end, we on this 26th day of November 1949 do hereby adopt, enact and give to ourselves this Indian constitution. And by way of an amendment, you are trying to change the oath which was taken on 26th of November and trying to add social and secular. So the point is what kind of secular we are. When there is such a committee is being operational in India, when there is 5,200 crore rupees which are being spent on minorities in violation of all the principles of Article 27. When we have Article 14, but despite the said fact, there is no issue of gender justice, there is no issue of uniform civil code which is being debated upon. So are we really implementing the constitutional ethos and goals, or are we really implementing the discussion which our founding fathers had in the Constitutional Assembly is the question.
Yeah, it is the big question. You talked about dichotomies. We are a country which allowed ek desh, ek vidhan, do samvidhan for the longest period of time. We are the country which in its constitution has not defined the word minority. It mentions the word minority, it does not define who is a minority. Correct. We are a nation in which the overall seeming majority is a minority in 9 states.
Correct.
So then the constitution should be protecting them as minority in these states. Right. So there are a lot of questions that arise. Do you believe that there needs to be a thorough revisit?
So I do believe there is a thorough revisit needed. Let me just add to what Mr. Jain has pointed out. I think the subtext of what he is saying, which I completely endorse, is that the majority-minority debate that goes on in the country today, and that too in the specific context of a particular group which masquerades as a minority and shouldn't be treated as minority under any circumstances, is a restatement of the two-nation theory for all practical purposes, which has been my thesis, especially over the last 2 years. However, having said that, what is critical to note is that when the constitution uses the word minority, it also speaks of not just a religious minority, it speaks of a cultural or a linguistic minority. So there is sufficient room in these provisions for protection of several sub-regional identities so that they don't get submerged at the altar of a so-called national identity. What was incorporated for the purposes of protection of all these local identities has now become a weaponized tool to push the agenda of one particular community entirely, to the extent that the Minority Welfare Ministry, which was constituted in 2006, is constantly seen as the stronghold or the bastion of one particular community, from its appointments to whatnot. And if any departure is observed in that particular appointment, it is seen as being anti-secular. So I do believe that there is a dichotomy there. But the second important thing is, and to add to what Vishnu has just pointed out, when the word secular was being debated, they were very clear of the scope for mischief using the word secular. And they said that the presence of this word is going to create a lot of trouble, not just to the character of the Indian state, but also with respect to a community that has just witnessed massive bloodshed in the backdrop of the partition, namely the Hindu community, where a partition is foisted upon it. And therefore, knowing fully well that the word secular has several historical connotations, they dropped it. But before the 42nd Amendment, which came out in 1976, there's another aspect that I think that needs to be pointed out, which is on the 24th of April 1973, in the Keshavananda Bharati case, the Supreme Court comes out with a particular finding that secularism is one essential aspect of the basic feature of the Constitution. Now, while I can understand that political compulsions of a particular leader resulted in secular and socialist being inserted forcibly into the preamble, under what compulsion did the judiciary deem it fit to insert secularism as an essential feature of the basic structure of the Constitution, when the founding fathers and mothers, because we had both, let's say, genders represented there, why is it that the judiciary chooses to put itself in the shoes of the founding framers of the Constitution and then insert these words? So apart from the fact that elected representatives have misused the Constitution, it is my belief that the Constitution's original intent has also been significantly deviated from as a consequence of judicial interpretation. And therefore, the responsibility for this lies as much on the judiciary as it does on the legislature.
Judiciary as much. And the other thing, Vishnu Jain, is that we always say, ye karna hai to constitution amend karna padega. The conversation is never, if we want to undo something, let's amend the constitution. So it's always somewhere, are we progressing towards the idea of India, or are we progressing towards the idea that is not India as envisaged by those who set up this country? Let's say our founding fathers and mothers, as Jai Sai Deepak put up.
No, absolutely. See, I agree with Sai Deepak, and there are a lot of scopes for implementation. I think when we talk about the constitution and when we talk about the minority rights as well as the insertion of words secular and socialist, that is one area where we have problem. But the second area is the implementation part. As Jai Sai Deepak rightly pointed out, the minority rights article 29 and 30 uses the word religious and cultural minority, linguistic and religious minority. There are two types of minorities under the constitution, linguistic as well as religious, but no one looks about Sanskrit as a linguistic minority. If we look about the minority rights, Sanskrit as a language is minority in the entire country. But I have not seen a single scheme from past 70 years by any government where Sanskrit is being taken as a linguistic minority in any state, or it has been promoted, or any aid is being given to any institution. We are not being taught our Ved and Shastra. There is no policy so far as any minority Sanskrit institution is being established in any state. So there is one part of constitution being there in its original form, and the other part is implementation. The implementation has been so bad in past 70 years, and the implementation has been on the aspect of only narratives, and the narrative is that we have to treat minorities on equal footing and we all are secular. Let me tell you, I want to give an example, and please try to appreciate this point. The people are never secular. Even if you are assuming, I am saying that Justice Rohinton Nariman, who was a judge of the Supreme Court, he said that forget about secular and socialist being added in the constitution. Even if those words were not added, then also there is Article 14 and 15, and the principles of secularism are enshrined and imbibed in our constitution. I agree with Jai Sai Deepak that legislature is also responsible, the judiciary is also responsible. But I am saying, assuming that the principles of secular ethos are there in our constitution from the very beginning, assuming, but kindly understand the dichotomy that whether the people are secular.
Yeah.
You have forced us to be secular. I want to believe and I want to assume and I want to have a religious belief that my God is supreme. And I want to give that liberty to a Muslim friend also who wants to believe that the Allah is supreme. I want to give that liberty to a Christian friend also, that he may believe that his book is supreme. But you have forced into my mind that no, I am secular. I have to believe that all religions are at the same footing. I want to ask a question today on this debate. Can a Muslim ever say or a Christian ever say that all religions are same? It is only forced upon us to say that no, you are all same. While the fact of the matter is that you cannot force people to be secular. The government has to be secular. If you are believing in secular ethos also.
Correct.
So there is dichotomy from the very beginning. And by introducing these words, so much of confusion has been created that because of this confusion, all these schemes, all these appeasement policies have been introduced. And the Waqf Act 1995 is the glaring example of all that, and including the Places of Worship Act.
So are you both trying to say that our constitution is actually a slave to narratives, and the narrative finds its roots in the two nation theory?
I would say so significantly. See, at the end of the day, we have a tendency, the thing is, whenever a particular film appears in black and white, we end up assuming that people were also equally black and white, which is not the case. The 1940s and the 1920s were as colorful and as grey as it can ever get. Okay, so I don't for a moment believe that there was no politicking behind the drafting of the constitution. But I would certainly say, I mean, I'm sure all of us would agree, that the quality of people in public affairs has certainly come down significantly from the 1940s, which is a worldwide phenomenon. But be that as it may, this is to be seen as a politico-socio-legal document. And therefore, it is a confluence of multiple compromises, multiple decisions and multiple pulls and tugs. Which is why my constant refrain has been, let us stop treating this particular document as some kind of a religious document. Look at it as objectively as possible. And the problem with, let's say, one of the doctrines of the Supreme Court, which is the basic structure doctrine, is that it binds the future to a particular decision of the past. If, according to you, the decision of the past is so crucial, then you must also respect the original intent in all aspects. But somehow, as Vishnu points out, the original intent is conveniently left open for certain aspects, and in certain aspects we are tied down to it. There's a serious problem there. So consider this particular issue. The question of minorities is never to be discussed at the level of the national scale. It is to be discussed only state by state, which means there cannot be a national commission for minorities in the first place, because the question of population and the question of composition is decided at the unit level of the state or the union territory. So if that is the case, who is a scheduled tribe, who is a minority for a particular, let's say, state, will be decided by each state government based on their representation in politics and so on and so forth. Now, going by that logic, a Tulu speaking person in Karnataka could constitute a linguistic minority, or Bengalis or Maharashtrians in Telangana would constitute a linguistic minority. That's how the discussion has to be. Now, the reason why Hindus in 7 to 9 states don't get to be treated as minorities, as far as those states are concerned, is that somehow we are fixated on the point that it's only a national count that matters, right? This is the product of 2006. Until 2006, there was no National Commission for Minorities at all. And therefore, for the very first time, under international pressure, under a specific convention, India chooses to constitute a National Commission for Minorities until then, which is a state subject or a state discussion. So clearly, this document is not just subject to tugs and pulls from within, it is equally subject to tugs and pulls from outside. So the human rights discussions that happen across the globe are sometimes slavishly imported here without asking whether first world problems can be foisted on a third world country, which is still a third world country for all practical purposes. We are growing, we'll certainly reach the first world at some stage. My point is, when there are serious problems in terms of, let's say, basic issues, as Maslow calls them his basic needs, you don't bring in, let's say, human rights considerations from the outside. Because while you'll constantly create rights, does the state have the wherewithal to enforce those rights? The question is, the judiciary has the luxury of creating rights and recognizing rights. Does the state have the wherewithal to actually enforce them? Is the society ready for these rights? Because every society has a pace at which it moves. And most importantly, we have our own cultural ethos and agencies. African nations today seem to be much more confident standing up to the West in terms of imposition of Western values, but Bharat, which sees itself as the lodestone of all culture, doesn't seem to have the very same confidence when it comes to this imposition. That's exactly why I believe that today, when it comes to issues of feminism, issues of gender, issues of human rights, I am 100% clear that people must be treated with respect. However, constitutional thought and policy thought with respect to each of these issues must be informed significantly by our own cultural ethos and our own native jurisprudence. But as I'm sure Vishnu will agree with me on this point, all these discussions are useless until legal education in this country focuses on native thought systems. Correct. Which is not the case today. Yeah. Native thought systems don't find any place in legal education whatsoever. We are constantly taught the jurisprudence of the West. So if that is what is at the education level, what do you expect at the level of policy and ideation?
No, but did this also stem from the fact that within the Constituent Assembly discussions, Vishnu Jain, there were two groups. One that said that we are going to be very, very native in our thought process. We're going to go back and we're going to draft ourselves and align ourselves based on our scriptures, our jnana, compared to the other which said, no, it's the West. We have to look at the West. They are industrialized, they are developed, they are civilized, and we need to throw. And did that prevail? And is that thought now percolating?
I think Anand, you are absolutely right. And the way the indicts, and as Sai Deepak has rightly said, and he has done a lot of research on this point, and his book is an inspiration for all of us. The indict thought process, I think, is somewhat missing in this Indian constitution. And let me give you certain examples by which you will see that how this entire thing has been mesmerized, and under the garb of secularism and under the garb of socialism, how the indict thought process has been murdered, brutally murdered. Let me give you an example which I got through my professional experience. I will not name the institution, but just 1 month back I got a case where one of the minority institutions had challenged that we should be declared as a religious minority before the High Court. The High Court turned down that request. They came to the Supreme Court. In the Supreme Court, the facts of the case were that they have been a minority institution and they want a minority status. The National Commission of Minority had declared them as minority institution. The state of UP said that no, we do not want to declare you as minority. Now the point is, and see the business which is going on in this country, that institution says that we are a minority institution, kindly give us 50% seats. The permission was given, and ultimately, Anand, you know what happened? The minority institution, they filled only 10% seats from minority community. Rest 40% seats were sold out in the open. So that money is used for various other purposes. And kindly see Article 28 of our Indian Constitution, where you prohibit the government institutions to impart any religious education. So at one point of time, you have Article 28, where in any government institution there can be no religious instructions, and on the same time you have Article 30 subclause 1, where you have minority institutions and they can impart religious education, and the government will aid them and fund them.
Correct.
And when that aiding and funding is given, they take that aid and fund also, and they take aid and fund from the general public also, and there is no concept of minority. Yeah, so that is point number 1. We have seen that within the framework of our constitution, in complete violation of Article 27, Haj subsidy has been given. Yeah. We have seen in the Indian Constitution that in complete violation of Article 77, a Prime Minister of the country has appointed Sachar Committee, and recently we came to know that Sachar Committee has been implemented. Yeah. We have come to know that 5,200 crores is given to minorities. So these are so many glaring and blatant examples by which we can understand that there is a complete murder of our Indian Constitution. It has been not, and it has not been implemented, and the Indian ethos and Indian values have been devastated by this the implementation.
Totally eroded even the spirit of spirit.
There is no talk on uniform civil code.
Yeah. That is part of the directive principles, to go ahead and outline a common civil code for the citizens of the country that will be governed by the Constitution. Yes, Vishnu Jain, quickly, and then I'll bring in Sai Deepak. Yeah.
One more thing I want to point out, that we all know that there is uniform civil code, but it's a basic principle of criminal law that it has to be uniform for all. Now we know under section 494 IPC, a Hindu, if he marries more than one person, he is punished. But the same time and marry. There is no uniformity in criminal law, and especially.
No, I think I've just lost your audio there, but there is no uniformity is what you said. But Sai Deepak, that's the travesty, isn't it? We talk about the right to equality, but hotels are governed by government, none of the other institutions are. You talk about the right to equality, minority rights are governed in certain sections of society, but other states, other linguistic minorities and in states where certain other communities minorities, they can't have their own institutions.
Correct.
They have the minority rights. And the right to equality itself stands compromised.
Take this example, the Right to Education Act, which has its noble intentions. When it is the purpose of the state and the stated goal of the state to ensure that everybody in that particular age bracket has access to education, why should it make a difference whether you are a minority educational institution or not? And still there is a specific exception that's carved out to say that the Right to Education Act, which furthers a certain universal goal, is exempt from application as far as minority education is concerned. And the two aspects to it. To the audience, I think there are two questions that we answered. If the Constitution and Bharati is the first question. Assuming for a moment that it is as far as the origin is concerned, and that Gomukh, where Ganga comes, is also pure, clean. By the time it reaches Delhi, does it remain as pure as it is, or has it significantly become polluted as a consequence of multiple interpretations both by the legislature as well as the judiciary? In my humble view, whether Gangotri itself is pure in the context of the framing of the Constitution is a serious question that needs to be asked. But that problem has been compounded further by the politicking that goes on in the name of secularism in this country.
Very well put together. Ladies and gentlemen, this is such an engaging conversation that we want to continue this, but paucity of time. So Vishnu Jain and Jai Sai Deepak, plenty of food for thought, and thank you for making the time for what is an engaging and eye-opening conversation, although we've just skimmed the tip so far. We've just skimmed the tip, but then perhaps we will be able to pickle the interests of our viewers to take this debate forward in the days to come. I thank you very much for your time. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Welcome to Rasta. I'm Zak Jacob. We're starting off with another massive upset that's happened in Qatar. Yesterday, remember, it was Saudi Arabia that upset Argentina. Today, four-time champions Germany have been stunned and how? Japan beating Germany in a Group F, in a Group E match. In fact, Germany had taken on an early lead, but that was not to be because Japan came back from behind and beat Germany. This is the second major upset in the FIFA World Cup in Qatar. Like I said, yesterday too, Saudi Arabia beating Argentina 2-1. They too were 1-0 down and they have come back to beat Argentina today. Japan doing the same to Germany. Let me go across to Shivani, who's joining us with more details on this. Shivani, so this is turning out to be fast World Cup of upsets.
And two big teams have already been defeated. What would be considered much lowly ranked, possibly, complete outsiders as far as the competition rankings are concerned. You mentioned about Argentina losing yesterday, today Germany. What Japan have shown is that they are making considerable progress and consistent progress, because last World Cup they had become the first Asian team to actually beat a South American team. They had beaten Colombia in the World Cup opener in the last edition. They came very close to beating Belgium in the last edition and were close to their first ever quarterfinals appearance. So they have in a way continued on from the form that they had displayed in the last edition in Russia, and starting with a win against Germany, that too after coming back from 9. I think this is one of their very rare wins, possibly their first in the World Cup
where they've come back from behind to win. So this is a tremendous performance from them and more Asian side.
Where does this leave Germany? I mean, of course, four-time champions, I think, winners last in 2014. They didn't have a great World Cup last time around. This time, with this kind of opening game, where does it leave Germany?
It leaves them in a very precarious position because it's pretty competitive. You've got Japan, you've got Costa Rica, and Spain in this group. Like you very rightly mentioned, they had a standard World Cup last time. It was the first in many decades that they hadn't made it past the group stage. And they had South Korea last time around. So, they're hoping for a turnaround time. That doesn't seem to be happening. Look at the statistics from the match. It would be unfair to say that Germany were completely outclassed. They obviously had more shots on target, more shots, but the match Japan made with 8 goals, and that too in the last of the match, in the last 25 minutes of the match. And the quality of the goals that Japan scored was also brilliant. So certainly, a big team. This is a lot of especially of the Asian teams have kind of filled in the gap a little between them and the big teams, and especially the former multiple-time champions.
All right, we'll leave it at that. So this is fast becoming a World Cup upset. We'll see how the story progresses. Let's now move on to the big focus of the day. There are more and more tapes of Delhi Minister Satyendra Jain coming out. Today, the BJP released a video of Jain eating home-cooked food and food that was clearly brought from outside, not something that was cooked inside the canteen, inside the jail's canteen. Just yesterday, Jain had made a plea to the court that he be given outside food as per recommendations by his doctors. But after the MassageGate video that came out over the weekend, now this video of special food being served to BJP. The question is simple. For a party that keeps calling itself Kattar Imandar, how long can Aam Aadmi Party keep defending this clear VIP behavior inside jail? Minister.
The controversy seems to be being heated every day. The Aam Aadmi Party now seems to be on a back foot after Delhi ministers jail luxury choice inside cell in Tihar jail. Jain has been eating salads and fruits. The video also showcases a man who is constantly at his service. This comes at a time when he has moved the court complaining about how he has not been given food as per his religious beliefs. His counsel now is asking for a restraining order on these tapes being made public. First the massage tape and now the khazana. BJP take all into consideration and launched a full-blown attack on Delhi's Aam Aadmi Party government.
Certification which we have received today by the acts as if it's not a jail, it's a luxury resort, and
Congress too echoing the BJP, attacking Arvind Kejriwal, claiming that security at Tihar jail has been compromised.
तो ये जेल नहीं है, ये अरविंद केजरीवाल ने अपने खास जेल मंत्री के लिए वहां पर एक वीवीआईपी व्यवस्था की है ताकि वो जेल का जो अंदर चल रहा है उसको देख रेख कर सके.
ऐसा सारी फैसिलिटीज आपको मिलती हैं.
Arvind Kejriwal's former colleague Kiran Bedi too did not hold back. Taking a jibe at the Delhi government, she demanded Satyendra Jain's resignation as a minister.
वो कैसे एक्शन लेंगे क्योंकि उनका मंत्री खुद जेल में. कौन एक्शन लेगा? How can you have a prison violating prison rules?
The Aam Aadmi Party has linked the whole drama to the city elections. Aam Aadmi Party believes that BJP is actually scared of them.
कोई डिफेंसिव नहीं है. भारतीय जनता पार्टी घबराई है, चॉइस को कूड़े के ढेर में डालने वाली.
Videos are 13th, October 1st and October 3rd. Now earlier this week, videos of Satyendra Jain doing a body massage from an inmate were also leaked. The party government in Delhi has still not attacked Jain. The big question now is,